Welcome to another episode of the Vision Clarity Leadership Podcast. My name is Seth Yalorda, and I will be your leadership coach for the next 15 minutes or so, helping you become a high-performance individual who ultimately can become a high-performance leader who leads a high-performing team. We are on a mission with this podcast to help every person see themselves as a leader and as an individual who is living an extraordinary life, and to equip you and your team to do extraordinary things. So each week we provide tools and resources that you can expand your life capacity and your leadership capacity so that you can lead with a big, bold, courageous vision, and really so you can live with a big, bold, courageous vision. If you find this content valuable, I'll be so honored if you would write a review or rate the content wherever you consume it. And please subscribe. I'm always shooting for a 5-star review. It would also mean so much to me if you would share this content with your colleagues, your team, your friends, your family, because we're on a journey to build a community of visionaries who are living big, bold, courageous, extraordinary lives. And you sharing this content is one of the best ways to help us do that. Now, in this episode, I want to give you a formula that I believe will really help you to manage difficult situations in your life. The reality is that we all go through difficult trials. We have highs and we have lows, and sometimes the lows seem to be much lower than the highs are high. And that seems to just be a regular part of life, that we all go through difficult, painful, trying, frustrating experiences, whether it's on your job, whether it's in your home, your family, your finances, your health. Pain and difficulty and trials come to us all. In fact, there's a scripture in the Bible, in the book of John, where he says, in this life, you will have tribulation. I think Jesus kind of understood the reality that we're going to go through stuff. Like, life is not a bed of roses. There will be some valleys, and those valleys will have shadows, and those shadows may just be the shadows of death, like David said in Psalms 23. That's just the reality of life, that all of us are going to go through difficult situations and trials. And yet, what's interesting is that there are certain individuals that even though they have their own set of pain and their own set of problems and their own set of difficulty, for some reason, they're just able to manage it better. They're able to rise above it higher, and it doesn't prevent them from still performing at a very high level. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because I have come to learn that how you relate to pain, your relationship to pain, oftentimes really will determine whether or not you experience higher levels of success than the average person. Understanding, and let's just establish this as a foundational truth, everyone is going through something, right? I think we got that out the way. So now that we're all on the same page, everyone's going through something, but some people have a way of just either bouncing back or allowing the pain and difficulty that they're going through, rather than having it cause them to like nosedive and crash and burn. They actually use that pain to catapult them to higher levels of fulfillment, success, performance. And the question is, how? How are they able to do that? And I believe that the answer to that question is in this very simple word called equanimity. Equanimity is defined as mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. It is the quality of maintaining a balanced and serene state of mind, regardless of external circumstances, allowing an individual to remain steady and composed when faced with stress, adversity, or emotional turbulence. Another definition for this, which I really love, says equanimity is a state of psychological stability and composure, which is undisturbed by the experience of or exposure to emotions, pain, or other phenomena that may cause others to lose the balance of their mind. So your state of mind, your emotional, mental, psychological, even spiritual stability is undisturbed when you are exposed to pain. That is what equanimity is. Equanimity is really what we are all trying and striving to experience. Jesus might call equanimity the peace that passes all understanding, right? And within the Christian worldview. But I think it's something that all of us are pushing for, all of us are desiring, where we can experience this level of tranquility and serene. Now, equanimity is not something that happens in the absence of pain. You only experience equanimity in the presence of pain. When you are exposed to difficulty, pain, discomfort, and yet you're still able to remain psychologically stable and composed, that's when you experience equanimity. So I don't want anyone to think that, well, I would be at peace if I didn't have these problems. Well, that unfortunately is not a reality that many of us work or live with, whether we have problems both at work and at home, in our health and in our finances. Problems abound abundantly. They are like weeds in the garden. They grow without anyone ever planting them. They are just there. And what equanimity says is, I am constantly striving for this state of calmness, even in the face of pain. Now, let me illustrate this. I've come to experience equanimity through recently engaging in cold baths. You probably are familiar with cold baths or cold plunges, where you submerge yourself in water that is below 50 degrees, ideally around like that 42, 43 degree temperature, which is extremely cold, right on the borderline of freezing. You submerge yourself for as little as 3 minutes to as long as 10, 15 minutes. Some people even go longer. And, there's a lot of studies out there that show the health benefits to cold plunges and why individuals do it. But what's interesting is that when I started engaging in cold plunges, I quickly learned what equanimity was supposed to be like. I haven't always experienced it, but when you get into the water, immediately your body starts to react to the water. You start shivering. You start trying to tighten up your muscles. You kind of put your hands under. You maybe even get into like a little fetal position because you're trying to conserve your body heat. You're trying to resist. That's a key word. You're trying to resist the pain that you're experiencing from this onslaught of extremely cold water attacking your body. And what's interesting about this is that what equanimity says is that even when you are in this cold plunge, you should be able to remain calm, undisturbed, peaceful, balanced, composed. Now, this is actually one of the reasons why I started doing cold plunges, because I really wanted to put myself in an environment where I had to intentionally do hard things. I recognize that hard things are a part of life. They are an inevitable part of life. But if I can intentionally expose myself to doing hard things, then maybe some of those inevitable hardships I experience won't be as hard, because I have developed the capacity to manage hardship on my own. So I started doing these cold plunges, and what I have found is that the more you resist the cold water while you're in it, the colder the water gets. But if you can find yourself engaging in deep breathing and relaxing and not having your arms tight, but relaxing your arms and just letting the cold water flow over your body, what you will begin to experience is that, yes, the pain is still there, but the suffering is not there. And that's what I want to introduce to you, is this formula that will really help you understand equanimity. Because what equanimity says is that suffering equals pain times resistance. So listen to that. Suffering equals pain times resistance. So pain is the constant, but what determines whether or not you are actually suffering is how much resistance, how high is your resistance level? If you are resisting the pain and you're pushing against the pain and you're trying to turn the pain down by resisting it, it only increases the suffering. But if you can lower your resistance level, maybe even all the way to zero, then suffering equals pain times zero resistance, which is zero suffering. Yes, it still hurts, but you won't be able to experience suffering. And that pain, while it is hurting, it won't prevent you from still taking action on your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, and on your life. A lot of people who experience suffering, they experience it as a mental, psychological, debilitating phenomena where you are suffering. And so as a result, your brain cannot focus on anything else other than to release the suffering. And yet, the very thing you try to do to stop the suffering, which is resisting the pain, the more the suffering increases. And so what equanimity says is if you want to decrease your suffering, you have to decrease your resistance, which means you have to embrace the pain. I'm living this. Many of you are living this in your families, in your marriages, in your finances, in your health. You've been given a diagnosis and it's painful. Maybe you have some type of chronic illness and it's painful and you are engaged in resisting. You're resisting the reality of the situation. And as a result, you are experiencing mental anguish, which is suffering. And that mental anguish, which is suffering, is leading you to discouragement, frustration, despair, despondency, depression. That is the pathway that leads you to not be able to live up to your highest self. Individuals who are able to accomplish significant achievements in their life don't do so in the absence of pain. They do so in the presence of pain. It's not easy, and yet they have realized that they have to embrace the pain by lowering the resistance, and that lowers the suffering so they can continue to persevere. Now, let me be very clear. There is a difference between pain and suffering. Pain is a natural and inevitable part of life. It can be physical, such as a headache or an injury, or emotional, such as grief or disappointment. Pain is a direct and immediate response to a specific event or circumstances. That's pain. Suffering, however, is a broader, more complex experience that arises from our interpretation and reaction to pain. It often involves a psychological component where the individual resists or struggles against the pain they are experiencing. So pain is a physical reality. Suffering is a psychological reality, which is actually a result of your relationship to pain. So this is what I want you to get, that in order for you to experience higher levels of performance, higher levels of focus, we can't wait for the pain to go away. Pain will always be there in every area of our life. Suffering, we can control by lowering the resistance and embracing the pain. Imagine that you are walking through your bedroom late at night and you stub your toe on the edge of the bed and pain shoots through your leg and you cry out. It is extremely painful. We've all done that before. Suffering comes in when you grab your toe, you're rolling around on the floor, and now you start to curse the bed. Who put that bed there? Why is that bed there? Stupid bed. And you're cursing the bed and you're cursing the darkness and you're cursing the night because of what has happened to your toe. That's suffering. Pain simply says, oh, my toe hurts. Let me take some deep breaths. I'm not going to curse the bed because it's not the bed's fault. I'm not going to curse the darkness because it's not the darkness's fault. This is a reality. I made a mistake. I stubbed my toe. Life, this happens. Let me take some deep breaths. Let me just embrace the pain. Then maybe just rub it and make sure it's not broken. And then let me get my hips back in bed. That is the difference between pain and suffering. And so if you are looking at your life, maybe it's at work and you're going through a painful situation, maybe in your personal life, you're going through a painful situation and you're looking at your life, I want to encourage you to really assess what level of resistance are you putting up? Are you resisting the pain or are you lowering the resistance and therefore lowering the suffering? Now, that doesn't mean that just because you're experiencing a painful situation, lowering the resistance means you need to just embrace the painful situation and stay there forever. No, there may be some situations you need to remove yourself from, whether it's in a work, professional setting. If you recognize, man, working here is just emotionally painful. It's just not the place I need to be. It's not a healthy place for me. Don't lower the resistance and just embrace it and stay there when you know it's doing damage to your soul. No, there may be some situations that you need to remove yourself from. There may be some behaviors that you need to change and start to adjust in order to mitigate future painful experiences. So be wise about it. But if you find yourself in a situation that you cannot control, maybe it's a health diagnosis, something's happening to a child of yours, maybe it's something that's happening financially to you, and you have no control of it. You can't just leave. You can't just resign or start a new job or start a new family. And you're in this situation, I want to encourage you to lower the resistance. And you can do this by practicing meditation, journaling, prayer, and leaning into gratitude. Gratitude is a phenomenal way to lower the resistance. And when you lower the resistance, you lower the suffering, you're able to see clearly now, make better decisions, not act from a reactive state of mind, but act from a creative state of mind, and then be able to really leverage the pain of that situation for your success going forward. Listen, I hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please like it, share it, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching.